Talofa lava everyone. How does being culturally responsive and having an integrated approach to teaching and learning accelerate student achievement? So what happened for my learners? The hus boys, as they like to call themselves, they were often late to school, late to class. They didn't like working in their own classroom. They struggled to find that connection with their teacher. They were disruptive, and they often saw no relevance to what they were learning in the classroom, and therefore made it much more difficult for them to be able to learn and feel like they were successful. The evidence that I have to support this would be a range of assessment data, VisTab information, clocking the time that they arrived to school, often after 9:30, formal and informal observations, but my most prized, precious piece of evidence would be student voice through talanoa that was collected very, very early on in the intervention. To make change, I focused on being culturally responsive in my practice, using their frames of references to help keep them engaged and created a safe space for them to work in. I identified their needs and then targeted them. So for example, you would have heard earlier that they were often late to school. So I made it a priority to see this group in the morning. Milo with Mrs. Fa'alili at 8:30 was often on, but then that changed when the boys wanted to meet after lunch because they noticed that there were leftover lunches. So my office space became their office space between 1:30 and 2:45. We spent time just connecting, eating together first before we dived into the work. An authentic learning experience was created and planned for, all integrated with specific learning goals that were identified. There were deliberate connections to the planning of this experience and their learning goals. As we sit in November in lockdown, my wonderings are, how can I in this role support teachers in being culturally responsive in their own practices and using Pasifika traditions and methodologies to support the teaching and learning of their Pasifika students? My second wondering would be around teaching in lockdown. How can we keep them engaged? What else can we do together to keep our tamariki, our whānau, engaged through online learning? It's a tricky one because I feel like I have failed my group of boys as they haven't been as connected as I would have liked them to be. But that's just a wondering heading into next year. Whawhitai tele lava, mole avanoa lenei. Have an awesome day. And if you'd like to know more, please feel free to go and check out my blog.